This presentation compares the party systems of Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Cameroon, and Ghana. My main question is how extraction practice shape political competition. I use Nigeria as my anchor in case because oil centralization makes the relationship between resources and parties especially visible. I then compare Nigeria with Benin, Togo, Cameroon, and Ghana to show how different resources structures produce different party systems. This slide states the core argument. I am not rejecting electoral institutions or party systems theories. Instead, I am arguing that those formal structures cannot fully explain what parties do in practice. The main mechanism is economics. When government controls centralized rents, they need less taxation for citizens. That weakens accountability and encourages political parties to organize around access to the state rather than ideology. The cases are organized to test that pattern across different resources and structures. The theory has three parts. Satiri helps classify party systems by the number of relevant parties and the character of competition. Electoral systems explain how votes become power, but the main contribution of this project is political economy. In resources dependent states, party systems may look multi party or paper on paper but operate as patronage systems in practice. This is why the distinction between point source and diffuse resources matters so much. This is a casual train that organizes the presentation. This issue is not only whether a country has resources. The issue is how those resources are controlled. Point source resources allow government to collect wealth from concentrated sectors and rely less on broad taxation. That weakens the relationship between citizens and the state. Once accountability is weakened, parties are more likely to compete for rent instead of building programmatic platforms. Nigeria is the anchor case. After the Civil War, oil revenue became centralized to preserve national unity. Under the 1999 Constitution, mineral resources are federal owned. This matters because parties competed to control the federal center and the national cake. Nigeria looks like a multi-party system, but party behavior is often defined by defections, elite bargaining, and access to revenue distribution rather than consistent ideology. Business is important because it complicates the argument, and political history includes Dahomey, the original um, name of Benin, where the Atlantic slave trade operated as an oil extracted system. In the modern era, Benin did not inherit a centralized resource comparable to Nigeria's oil. They helped produce fragmentation and personalist coalition politics. More recently, however, legal reforms have narrowed competition. This shows that the elite dominance can be produced through institutional engineering even without a major oil wealth. Togo shows a different outcome from Nigeria. Nigeria uses centralized oil wealth in a competitive patronage system, while Togo uses a centralized fosse and state power to suppress competition more directly. The ruling UNIR party benefits from the advantage of the state, while opposition parties face severe structural limits. Constitutionally challenged changes have also helped preserve the Ghaznabi family rule. Togo therefore shows how point source resources can support authoritarian party stability. Cameroon is similar to Nigeria because both use centralized extract wealth. The difference is the level of political closure. Nigeria's federal structure permits more visible elite competition, while Cameroon's presidency has narrowed the arena. Oil and mineral control strengthens the ruling, a CPDM, while opposition parties remain weak. Recent institution developments, including the reintroduction of the vice president's role, show how executive control can be used to manage success. Ghana is the stronger contrast case. It shows that African democracy can be stable with resource wealth is more diversified and political competition is meaningful. Ghana's economy rests on gold, cocoa, and oil rather than one monopolized resource stream. This supports broader parties' appeals and repeated alternations between the NPP and the NDC. At the same time, the 2026 gold royalty reforms remind us that even stable democracies still face pressure from extraction politics. This table summarizes the findings. Nigeria is competitive but patriotic driven. Benin is historical fragmented because it lacks a modern centralized rent stream, but it has recently moved towards forced consolidation. Togo and Cameroon show how point source resources can support dominant party rule. Ghana shows that a diversified economic base can support more stable democratic competition. The pattern is not perfect, but its consistent resource structure shape party behavior. The competitive pattern has two sides. First, high resource centralization consistently pushes party systems towards elite control, patronage, and weak ideology. Second, lower or more diversified resources control tend to create a stronger incentive for accountability and competition. The Satari helps classify these systems, but political economy explains how they actually work. A multi-party label does not automatically mean meaningful ideology or competition. To conclude, this project argues that party systems across these five countries are shaped not only by institutions but by extraction. Nigeria shows how oil centralization drives competitive patronage. Togo and Cameroon show how concentrated riches can sustain dominant party rules. Benin shows the fragmentation that came from the limited centralized wealth, and Ghana shows the promise of diversification. The final lesson is clear: control of research shape control of politics.